celebrate you and we thank you for being here. Just to let you know, the theme for this year's celebration is digital innovation and technology for gender equality. We'll speak about this as we go along, but today the meat of the exercise is really hearing from the experts. And when I speak of the experts, these five ladies who are seated before us, they are the experts today, and they're going to guide us through this exercise. And my task this morning is to basically lead us through this exercise and to facilitate your participation and questions. So we would like you to be involved as much as possible. Feel free to ask questions and to interact with the panelists because that's what they have consented to being here for today. So I will begin with the introduction of the panelists today. Our first panelist, Deidre Millington Myers, has 35 years experience in building design and construction. She has a master's degree in building conservation along with a postgraduate diploma in architectural project management from Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, Scotland. She has worked on numerous building construction projects in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the areas of design, contract administration, and project management. Deidre Myers' professional journey has many highlights, but she considers the most rewarding to be her role as the construction consultant and venue development manager for the redevelopment of the Annisblail playing field for Cricket World Cup 2007, and as the project manager for the construction of the modern medical complex at Georgetown. She considers her involvement in managing engineering projects as confirmation of a practical understanding of the behavior of structures such as bridges, roads, and river defense systems. 2 decades ago, Deidre joined the SVG National Trust and led the trust in matters pertaining to the built environment. She was up until recently a trustee of the SVG National Trust and served as a chairperson. Her passion for historic architecture has taken into research of the architectural history of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and she provides guidance on the conservation methods and techniques and rehabilitation of historic buildings in this country. She is currently one of the country's representatives to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee and an affiliate of the Institute of Historic Conservation and of the Commonwealth Heritage Forum. Deidre is an amateur photographer with an impressive collection of photographs on various subjects. She makes time to tour museums and sites and to photograph historic buildings in any country she visits, and has made specific visits to many 19th century churches and to pyramids of ancient civilizations. In 2017, she published I Saw It Through My Lens, a collection of photographs depicting the decade-long journey of the construction of the Argyle International Airport. Her most recent publication in 2021 is entitled How Our House Was Built, the Church Architecture and Worship. Ladies and gentlemen, panelist number one, Deidre Millington Myers. Please stand. Deidre? Yes, sorry, stand, right. Our next panelist is Luzanne Edwards. Luzanne began her primary school education at the Kingstown Preparatory School, and then she pursued studies at the secondary level at the Girls High School. She was awarded the Most Outstanding Student in Physics, where she graduated. She balanced her book work with steel pan as a member of the Style of Steel Orchestra, and she's a past member of the number 1 Guide Unit and number 23 Ranger Pack. At the tertiary level, she attended the SVGCC Villa campus. While there, she represented St. Vincent in under-20 football World Cup qualifiers. She was awarded a national scholarship for her outstanding scholastic achievements. She holds a BSc in Civil Engineering with Environmental from the UWI St. Augustine campus, where she made the Dean's Honor Roll. Upon completion of those studies, she was a site technician at Obi Sadu Engineering Service Limited. She was also involved in construction supervision and material procurement for two projects, the Green Hill Bridge and the Georgetown Coastal Defense. She holds a Master's of Science in Engineering Fluid Mechanics from the Imperial College of London and is a civil engineer in the Ministry of Urban Development, where she assists with the project officers, managers in local project implementation under the Ministry of Urban Development. Our second panelist, Ms. Luzanne Edwards. And Luzanne, thank you. Our third panelist this morning is Trakisha Davis. She holds a BSc in Environmental Science and Sustainable Technology from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine campus. She has more than half a decade experience in airport operations and safety. Currently, she is the Environment, Health and Safety Advisor of Aecon Kingstown Port Modernization Project. She's relatively new to the construction industry. Nonetheless, she believes women mostly face challenges to their authority, knowledge, and skill set in professional settings. She's the winner of the inaugural National Cooperative Public Speaking Championship in 2019, retaining and certifying more than 150 employees in safety operations in 2021. She sees herself establishing or joining a mentorship program for young women 13 and older and attain EHS certification, towards the attainment of EHS certification. Our third panelist is Trakisha Davis. Trakisha? Our next panelist is Kira Powell. She grew up in the Pacific Northwest of the U.S. in a small farming town. She attended university at the Colorado School of Mines near Denver, where she obtained a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering. She started working as a dredging engineer, working all across the U.S., New Jersey, Florida, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and Alaska. She transferred into construction for a project in British Columbia, Canada. Her next project was an airport in the Arctic Circle in Greenland and currently works on the port modernization project in beautiful St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Her words: when she's not working, she loves being outdoors, hiking, snorkeling, surfing, paddleboarding, and believe it or not, she's training for an ultra marathon. Ladies and gentlemen, our fourth panelist, Kira Powell. Our fifth and final panelist is Talise Maxman. She's a graduate of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, where she obtained a degree in civil engineering with first-class honors. She is currently employed at the Ministry of Transport and Works, Land and Surveys and Physical Planning as an engineer. Some of her responsibilities at the ministry are assisting in the design of infrastructure in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and managing a few construction sites as a project engineer. In the future, Talise plans to pursue a master's degree in structural engineering, as she has a keen interest in the behavior of buildings that we use daily. Our fifth and final panelist, Talise Maxman. So we have a very competent panel before us this morning, and I've spoken to the panelists as to how we wish to continue with today's exercise. So what we will do, because they have various specialization, they will make preliminary statements in the areas of specialization as it relates to women in construction, after which by then I hope that you would be not so shy anymore, and that you will begin to interact with them and to ask your questions, because today's exercise is geared at having you ask as many questions as possible so that you can learn from these well-rounded and very well and competently trained women who sit before us today. So we're going to begin with you, Ms. Millington. So it's over to you. Mrs. Millington Myers.
Um, my area is architecture, and I it's my story is so long. I'm not too sure where I should begin. I can talk for the whole day, but the I'd like to look at or focus today because I think it is important at this point in the nation's history to emphasize our historical architecture as opposed to the new buildings. Not that I have anything against it, but I would like to have people develop the consciousness for our historical buildings. And they can be the elaborate ones like the courthouse and things like that, but they also a lot of residential buildings that you see around that are nice and quaint. And I say that because that is where I began as a child in my grandmother's house, which was a nice wooden building, and I was just in awe as to its symmetry, the timber work, and thought about the people who would have put this stuff together without things like power tools and that. So the craftsmen, as I call them at that time, certainly had a lot of pride in what they did, and that was sort of my beginning and my interest in the field of architecture. I would like to have the questions from you as to what is your general interest in the field. But as an introduction, it has been a most rewarding experience because architecture takes you all in so many areas in St. Vincent if you're operating here because sites can turn up anywhere. So I've learned my country. Um, it has taken me to other areas of interest whenever I travel, as I've said. And if you think about it, you're in most of your life is spent in some form of a building. You live in one, you go to church in one, you go to school in one, whatever you shop, wherever you go, you have the built environment with respect to buildings. You just transition between from one to the next, from your house to school to the shops and that sort. So if you think about it in that manner, you realize how important architecture and by extension, all the other areas in the field of construction is important to our general existence. So that is my nutshell introduction, and I look forward to the conversation from with all of us in this room who look alike.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Luzanne, the announcement to you. Luzanne is
To start off with. But nonetheless, I pushed forward. I found myself surrounded by guys. I felt safe because I was with the project manager and he made sure that, you know, I was basically inducted well with the crew and it went well. I found myself questioning myself a lot because I was straight out of school. I had no experience with construction, but I was confident in myself. I was confident in my ability. So I think that's one thing that, we should keep in mind moving forward that even though we might not have experience, we might doubt ourselves, just trust yourself, and don't be scared to ask questions and, everything would fall into place. So after that project completed, I got the opportunity to work on the Georgetown coastal defense. And while I was in university, I did an elective called coastal engineering, and I got the most outstanding student for that course. And I just asked myself, paying attention to what's happening globally. We in the midst of climate change and sea level rise, and we being a Caribbean island in the region, we are so prone, prone, to coastal, damage and whatnot. So I thought to myself, maybe, I could take this up more seriously and focus my efforts into this field. So I got to work on the Georgetown Coastal Defense. It was strange. I've never seen a project like this before. We have excavators on the seafront excavating in the water, and it was really interesting because just a couple meters back, maybe 10, 20 meters back, it was the main road. So if nothing was done to protect that main road, access above Georgetown, would have been hard to get into. So, it's a very important field to get into. So that's all I want to say. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Alison. Teacher is the environmental health and safety person on our discussion this morning. And let's go with another discussion.
Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Trakesha Davis. As was mentioned earlier, I have a background in sciences. So I grew up doing science subjects all the way through school, physics, chemistry, biology, and so forth. Initially, my aim was to be a doctor and so forth. But then when I finished A-level college, where I also did chemistry, biology, math, I wasn't so sure about being a doctor anymore. So I took a year where I taught at St. Joseph's Convent, Mariquar, and I used that year to determine, okay, where am I going with my education and whatnot. So after that year, I decided I want to get into environmental. So initially, my first choice was environmental engineering. However, when I applied to UE, because I didn't do physics at A levels, they told me I would have to do pre-engineering, right? Pre-engineering or do physics at A level. I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. So then I pursued my degree in my second choice, which was natural resource management. However, UE had other plans for me, and they accepted me to be a part of the first group of students to ever do a degree in environmental science and sustainable technology, which was a special degree. It was about 20 of us they selected. At the end of the 3-year program, it was so intense that only about 7 of us graduated at the end of 3 years, right? So I graduated at the top of the class. I got an award for the top environmental science student. When I came back, I started job hunting and whatnot, and then I became employed at the Aga International Airport as an operations officer. And I was there for up until about 2020. And then in 2020, I became the safety officer. And that's where my love and passion for safety continued to grow to the point where I'm now EHS advisor with Aecon, right? Because environment, safety, health, they're all intertwined. Persons may not look at it that way, but they all have a lot to do with each other. The environment has to do, natural resources, the water, the air, so forth around us. Safety has to do with how we interact around them. So in construction, it has to do with, making sure the workers and so forth are in a safe environment, using PPE, and health comes into play to ensure that persons don't get sick while they're carrying out their job. So that's what I do on a daily basis now. Make sure that things are done safely, correct procedures are followed, procedures are in place, policies are in place, do inspections to remind persons that, hey, remember to do this safely, remember to wear your PPE, your air protection. It may seem like, the sound isn't necessarily loud, but if you're exposed to it for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, then your risk for developing some sort of ailment in the future increases. So, and I think this is very important. It's something that a lot of persons don't necessarily pay attention to. Naturally, as Vincentians, your safety and your health and your exposure to certain things, even inhaling smoke and that sort of thing. So that's where I am. And in the future, I really would like to continue working in this field. Even in construction right now, I was in aviation right now, a few years ago, well, a few months ago. But, that's my aim, health, safety, and environment, to continue along that vein and to raise awareness for Vincentians.
Our next panelist is Kira, and Kira is a senior civil engineer at Aecon Construction Group.
As noted, I am one of the senior engineers on site. My area of specialty is marine-based construction. So anything that's done on the water or near the water. And so right now, you guys might have noticed out in the port area, we have a couple barges, we have some tugs going back and forth, and so that's the work that I'm focusing on. My journey to getting there has been a bit kind of all over the place. I didn't start out going into marine construction. I actually worked in trains. I worked with the railroads, but I was always drawn to construction in general because of the challenges. And they're unique and they're everyday and they'll come at you when you least expect it. And the role of an engineer is just to figure out a way to fix it. And with the team and the expertise that you have from your operators, the individuals that are working for you and with you, as well as the health and safety. And so it's finding a solution that works for everybody. When I first started, I was, as mentioned, a dredging engineer straight out of school. And to kind of echo what Luzanne said, that it was very much a boys' club. I don't think I worked with another woman for 2 years. I was starting to think that they didn't exist in the company. So it's very challenging when your first job and you come out and nobody looks like you, nobody has your same experience, and it's sometimes hard to find a mentor or someone that can relate to you. But eventually, 2 years, you'll find someone. They'll turn up. But also, there's men in the industry that are very, they'll mentor you and bring you under your wing so that they provide the opportunities to grow in your career and provide support as well. But I don't say that to deter you. It's just one of the things that sometimes happens when you start in this industry. I think that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'm going to turn it on.
Good morning. I'm Talize Maxwell. I always tell people that civil engineering chose me because when I was in school, I know I didn't want to do medicine. I know I like the sciences, but not so much to do medicine. So by the process of elimination, I did maths, chemistry, and physics at college. And it happened so that I was interested in engineering, and those were the requirements for civil engineering. So I enrolled in the program. It was very challenging, but I liked it. That's it. At the end of every challenge, I remind myself that I liked what I'm doing and I would like to continue doing it. So I got my degree. I'm fresh out of school, so I probably have the least amount of experience here, but that's the problem. I am employed at the Ministry of Transport and Works. So normally we will get our drawings from the architect. As a civil engineer, you will look at it. You might have to do some designs as well, some structural designs. And you will go on construction site and ensure that those designs are followed. What I would tell you as a female, as a young engineer on site, you have to listen, but you have to assert yourself. You would see a construction worker probably doing something that is not according to the drawing. You might correct him and say, okay, well, you should follow the drawing. At the same time, he has experience. I don't have experience. So I have to listen and say, okay, listen to see where he's coming from. So we'll sit down, have a discussion. But at the end of the day, the responsibility lies with you. So you have to ensure that, okay, he has a point, but the drawing is saying this. So we could meet in the middle to ensure that what we want is what we're going to achieve. So my thing is you just have to, as a female, listen, assert yourself. Even though you might get challenges, remember the responsibility lies with you, and you just assert yourself and you should be fine.
You might have a little deterrence here and there, but it gets better as you go, as you work in the industry. You yourself will gather the experience, so you'll be able to handle yourself. And that's all I have to say.
Invite you. What are some of the things you want to find out from these experienced ladies that we have here today? What can we learn from them? What do you want to leave here with? This is your time and the opportunity for you to ask them questions. So who's going to be the first person to ask a question? Yes, you're going to be, yes.
I know I was going to call it, right? You know that.
Okay, just stand and say your name and the institution you're from so that we can do. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessie Semela, and I'm from the KTI. Right? At the KTI, I do general construction. I mean, at first, when I applied for this course, I was the only female, and I was surrounded by a lot of males. I didn't feel like getting anything. I felt confident, but what I've gathered from all the panelists, that they were scared at first, but they were confident in themselves and so on. So my question is to yes, okay. So right, you said you're the one with the experience. For me, I don't have like experience in construction. Yeah, for me, I don't have any experience at all in the construction people. So what I'm doing is I did one of college and so on. So you say you have like a service, so and then you meet people who have experience and people. Like what if even though they have experience, like some things you know doesn't really coincide with what they want to do. Like how would you tackle that?
What you're saying is not necessarily what you want done, and you're confident in your solution. You've done the calculations, you know that is what will work. Then you just have to tell them, okay, this is what is going to work. Because eventually the drawings are signed off by somebody in authority. So if that is what is on the drawing, it must be enforced. So you just have to be confident and say, okay, this is what needs to be done, so we have to do it. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. To address your question, and I guess it's a general feeling around because we get that all the time. When you are in charge of some project that's happening on site, as in the case of as Talisa says, she's on site as the project engineer. It is your responsibility, and you are working from the point of the designs that are assigned to that project. You will get folks on site, generally the workmen, who would say things like, we are accustomed doing it that way, all right? And the response should be, yes, you may be accustomed doing it that way, but for this project, we're doing it this way. And you try not to be too antagonistic because everybody has a role and you have to respect that. But more often than not, they will come around. You have to be knowledgeable in your field. You have to be knowledgeable about the project you are administering. and all the parameters around it. So the first thing you do is you become familiar with the particular project. They are all different. That is the beautiful thing about construction, that it's not a one size fits all. Things are different. Conditions on site may dictate that you do things this way as opposed to the way that they are accustomed doing it. More often than not, they're usually accustomed doing it wrong. And you try to make it a teaching moment. At least that's what I have done over my time. Why do you do this, and why you should do it this way? And this is the correct way. And a lot of because we learn in the construction field, you have a lot of informal learning and hand-me-down kind of things. More often than not, it may be wrong. So you have to be knowledgeable, you have to be confident. And as all the panelists said, a woman walks on the site and you immediately get her, right? But you just move through there knowing that I know what I know, and I have come here to administer this thing. And you can only do that if you make it your business to know and understand not only that project, but the industry in general. You understand the roles of the different disciplines and who is responsible for what. Similarly, sorry, I can't remember your name, where you speak about things like PPE, and you know what is PPE? Right. You have to be very strong on that matter, because I have noticed on site, men don't like harness, men don't, and things like that. But it's for their purpose. I noticed things like I've worked in rivers, and you look at the water in the river, and you know it is dirty. It's not good for your health, and people want to get in there without shoes. They want to get in there without coveralls or things like that. It's not good for you. So you kind of explain that to them so that they understand why it is necessary to wear your PPE and things like that. That is provided. And lastly, I have always looked at myself as a professional in construction who happens to be a woman, not the other way around, because we all sat in the same classroom, women, men, everybody. We listened to the same lectures, we did the same exams. So we are all professionals. I just happen to be a woman.
What percentage of women in St. Vincent and the Grenadines involved in this sector? And because I'm perceiving that percentage to be very small, because I think in the world over, it's like the average is about like 14 or so percentage of women that are involved in the sector. What can be some of the attraction for women to this particular sector?
Yeah. The percentage of women involved in construction is, in my view, too small, but it is growing. I have seen it over the years, and here we are with a room full of women. I think they're beginning to realize that it's something that you can actually do and enjoy. And it really is speaking more of it, and these sorts of sessions help, where you can see females who have done studies, and everybody doesn't have to be an engineer, or everybody doesn't have to be an architect or to enjoy the field. There's so many areas. I mean, right now, since we're short on quantity surveyors, and and electrical engineers and this sort. So they just research the whole area of construction, because it's wide. There's so many things that you can do. I keep referring to a friend here who realized that the environmental scientist is part of the whole team, and it is just wide. And the more you know, as women, or any even the boys, you then become attracted to it because it is fulfilling. You move things from paper to actual, and there's a sense of accomplishment when you see the structure that you started on a little sketch, one line, two lines, become some place where people enjoy and people, interact with that kind of thing.
I want to add something there. Yes. So construction itself isn't just based in St. Vincent alone or the Grenadines. Construction could carry you throughout the region, throughout the globe. Take for instance Kira. She has traveled. You could travel for free with construction. Yes. And you might start off, let's say, as a trade person. If you're competent enough, you dedicate yourself to work, there is room and opportunity for you to grow in that profession. And then ultimately you might end up as a project manager. You might even start your own construction company. You never know. So you have to keep an open mind, put in the work, and everything will fall in place. Yes. That's it.
Yes, Marlon Stevenson, I'm with the Port Modernization Project, Community Group Support to. Right, so I'm bringing the point, and persons remember the issue with the jack wall. When the jack wall failed, who did everybody go to? The engineers. So if you are on a job, you have a responsibility, as you say, whether or not you're male or female, you have to sort yourself. Do the right thing. But when things fail, it's coming back to you. And the last thing I want somebody to say is because of female, I think a guy, because of male engineering, assert yourself. If you know, as Maya said the other thing, make it a teaching moment. I built a house, and the amount of things as a non-engineer I had to point out to people, I want it this way. I want my columns this way. We are custom. I have to live in it. I want it this way. As an engineer, you have to insist whether, as a female, you have to assert yourself in the industry. Just want to say a point because there's legal issues as well.
Very important. I have a question. Sorry, good morning. My name is Aecon Chambers. I'm with the API. One of the main things that came out from everyone this morning is the challenges that you face, whether from studying or on the job, right? So I want to know what are some of your fondest moments, because there must be some fun in it for you to be doing it for the period of time that you've been doing it. And also, what are some of the major changes that you have seen over the number of years, whether it's in engineering or in construction itself?
It just like moments when you have a plan and you work together on it with a group of people, whether that's in the field with your operators, and you all get together and you're like, man, something's gone really wrong, we need to figure out right now, and everyone like pools together and figures out a solution. It's one of the most satisfying things ever when you kind of like make a plan in the field and it works immediately, and I cannot describe the feeling. It's so satisfying. This happens when I was working in Greenland. Part of my role was doing temporary haul roads for large construction trucks. And some of the things that I enjoyed the most was just chatting with the operator on how he wanted to do it, how he wanted to build this road. And I'd look at it and say, okay, we need to go here. And he'd tell me how he wants to build it. And I'd say, okay, let's go. And at the end of the day, seeing that road built exactly how he wanted it and how I wanted it was just really good. So I think that's one of the best things about engineering is at the end of the day, you get to see the fruits of your labor. And whatever role that you play on the project, from a surveyor to a carpenter to a health and safety professional to an engineer, you can say at the end of the day, I helped build that. So that is that's a good moment, I guess. Who would like to go next?
Well, for me, as I guess the non-engineer at the table, the most fulfilling moment for me is at the end of each day, knowing that everyone got home safely. There were no incidents, there were no accidents. That is the most fulfilling thing for me, because each time there's an incident or an accident, okay, there is something that we need to investigate, that we need to look into to ensure that this does not happen again, right? So at the end of each day, once everything is finished and all is well, and we get to go home safely in one piece, that's what's most fulfilling to me, right? So that's my bit.
I guess for me, the most fulfilling feeling was project manager would tell me that you don't hold on to projects because you have to move on to another one. But that project was like, okay, I was there from the beginning till the end. Like Kira said, the challenges that come up, talking to the operators, talking to the tradesmen, how are we going to tackle this? You know, one day you have your excavator walking, you turn your back, a hose burst, you have concrete coming. So all those challenges, and at the end, you see people sitting on the benches, just cooling out, chilling out at the project. It's a good feeling, because I did that.
Yes. Well, as, yeah. As I said, that is the best thing when it is completed and you know that you've seen it from beginning. I mean, there are lots of buildings that I've worked on in St. Vincent, and I'd walk into them, and it's almost like X-ray. That I can remember when this wasn't gray. I remember when it was just steel or something like. So I can still see um, what it was and how it grew from vertically and otherwise. It is really satisfying. I think that basically you know is it the final product, and you know that you were there at the beginning.
About the construction industry is that the dress code is very relaxed. You're not going in there, heels, anything you put on your PPE and make sure yourself properly secured and you do your work and you enjoy the day. Very comfortable. That's what I like.
Um, how conscious are we about safety in the workplace? Because I think that is something that a lot of us tend to take for granted.
The consciousness of Vincentians as it relates to safety in the workplace, I think it's improving, right? It's a work in progress. Um, Daily on the site, we ensure that we remind staff different safety talks each morning. We have them, but even with that, we still have to remind persons constantly. So it's kind of like I'm in the classroom again, but in the field. So you have to keep going around, reminding persons, okay, you need to wear your gloves. We need you to wear your eye protection, your hard hat and what's not, because there are many factors, many hazards that are around you, right? Because you're working with machinery, there's dust around, we don't want you hitting your feet on anything. So it's something that you have to keep reminding persons of regularly. But I think over time, if we keep doing that, and when we keep doing that, not just in construction, but in all fields, it's really important. We have to keep at it daily, because if we don't, then persons may relax and get comfortable and figure, oh, I cut this yesterday without a glove and nothing went wrong, but then today might be the day you don't use your glove and something happens to your finger and that kind of thing. So it's something that we have to keep reminding persons of, and hopefully over time, when we become more safety conscious, then it will become more natural to persons. I know sometimes it's cumbersome, having the hat and the vest and the gloves and the goggles. It's a lot sometimes, and sometimes it's very hot outside, but it's necessary to get your job done safely, right? Because you may touch something, you don't know what it is, and then you touch some part of your body or your eye, something gets into your eye, then we have a first aid issue on our hands, or sometimes persons even end up dead as a result of injuries or getting in contact with different things. So it's something that we have to keep working on, and then with that, I believe that in the coming years we would get better at that.
I have a question about the all females. The question is, when males, due to they see us as okay, we can't do that, and then they put us as like a baby at the side, right? And they want to cut there, they want to shoot there, and you're there standing up. You're there standing up. What should we say to tell them, okay, we are capable of doing that?
So you should let your work speak for yourself. Let's say you have to construct this, and maybe it's a project you have to do it in school. It's graded, and your male colleague might build it 2 inch shorter than how it's supposed to be, has a lean. But you build it to a certain specification. You could sell it to somebody on the street. You know, they might not say anything to you. Your teacher might say something, your instructor might say something. But once you know to yourself personally that you could do the work, you shouldn't let them deter you from proceeding. Maybe you might have to say, excuse me, in a very, respectful way. Excuse me respectfully. But you shouldn't, insult them or what's not, because that's not the correct way to do it. You know? So that's for me. Let your work speak for yourself.
Um, as I said, we get this type of thing all the time, and I'll tell you through maybe two stories how I handle such situations. Um, I remember very early when I returned to St. Vincent, and you come back and you think, oh boy, I've studied, and you know I'm the hot shot in town. And we used to, at that time I went to work nicely dressed in high heel shoes, and so wrong idea. Um, but I saw myself at that time being in the office. In those days, we did our drawings by hand, not CAD that came after. And something happened on one of the sites that we were working on, and they were casting a section of the roof. So you have to get up there. So the contractor called the office, and my boss sent me. I was in a skirt and I was in high heel shoes. And I'm going over to the site and I'm saying, goodness, the problem is on the roof. I got there, and um, there was a ladder. Not a ladder that they make on site, they pound together these. Goodness gracious me, I gotta go up there. And then all the workmen on the site gathered around because I am inappropriately dressed. But I have to go on that roof because there's a problem up there to be solved. So hard pounding, but I get up the ladder in my high heel shoes, did my inspection, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking I have to come back down. And coming down is harder than going up, especially when you're in high heel shoes, skirt, and the guy is waiting at the bottom of the ladder. And they're doing things like, oh, miss, we will hold the ladder for you, kind of thing. But I'll tell you what, from that day, I never went to work in skirt and high heel shoes. It has changed to jeans or pants and boots, protective gear. And that's why people see me dressed like that since then. And that is the reason. Never again. And from that day, it doesn't matter how high, what ladder. And I say, if there are people up there, it means I can go as well. So when you get on site and you got to get on the roof, you got to get on the roof. If you stand back and you look like that is a big challenge, they're going to say, yes, she's a woman. She should not be here. But you don't look at it that way. I am here as one of the professionals or whatever area you're in, and the work is on the roof, and there's a ladder, no matter what it looks like. The men went up, or so I'm going up too. That's how you handle that initial problem. I think there was a second one, but it's kind of gone now. When I remember.
I think the big thing is you also have to advocate for yourself. When I first started, being the only woman on the team, my supervisor just assumed that I didn't want certain tasks, particularly ones that involved anything like more physical labor or getting dirty. And actually, those assignments really interested me, and I wanted to do that. And so I just had to have a conversation with him. And it's like, okay, like I would like to do that. And he's like, you want to put the waders on and go out in the like swamp and surf it? And I was like, yes, I do want to do that. And so I think also not allowing, sometimes it's just like they just didn't think it through that you might want to do it. And so not letting yourself be put in a box because they're like, oh, she's a girl, she doesn't want to do that. Like if you want a certain task or you want to learn something on site, even if it's not quote unquote traditionally feminine, sometimes you just have to kind of put yourself in there. Like if you want to learn how to run an excavator, or you just have to go up to the operators, like, show me how to do this. Like, and 9 times out of 10, maybe they'll grumble about it, complain, but they'll do it. And then at the end of the day, you have that knowledge. And then the next time someone says, oh, you don't know how an excavator runs, like, actually I do. And so kind of have to kind of just wiggle your way into things sometimes. But I don't know if that's helpful.
And for me, construction was mostly a male-dominated area. So I wanted to be one of the few females who did construction. So in secondary school, I did building technology, building from construction technology and technical drawing. And I graduated with the technical drawing award. And applying for college, I wanted to expose myself in another area where females weren't so popular in. So I applied for refrigeration and air conditioning, and I got in. So my question for you, I know some of you did different areas before getting into construction. So was it a hard adjustment for you in like not knowing the most about construction?
Both industries I've worked in, I started working in them without the formal education in that background, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I worked in aviation and I started there, it was learning. Started in construction, still learning. So I just take it as a learning experience. If I don't know what's happening, I'm not afraid to ask questions. Asking questions would never you would never go wrong asking questions. So you see something happening, ask an engineer, or you even ask one of the laborers, somebody in the field, ask them, okay, what are you doing? Because I normally would do that, I would go over and ask, okay, so what are you doing? What's the next step? Why are you doing this? And so forth, so that you become more familiar with what is happening around you, and you would also be learning about the project on a whole. So I don't try to just stick in my little box and health and safety only. I try to ask questions about what's happening, what's the intention here, and so forth, so that you would learn. So if you're getting into an industry where you're not familiar with it, ask questions, read, do research. Even if what you find online isn't applicable for your setting, you're still learning and you're still, figuring out how things are going in the industry. And I think that helps a lot. Sometimes you find a lot of procedures and policies and so forth online, and they help a lot. So ask questions, do research, go on YouTube, TikTok, social media. You could learn anyway, and that would help you a lot.
When when I returned from school the first time and got my first job in an architectural firm, my boss said to me then that you have to unlearn all what you learned in school because this is real world. Time is money. Every line on your sheet means something and has a cost, and things along that line. So it's a serious world we now in. So I set about on a task, on a mission of learning everything within my field, and I'm talking about the wide, not only in architecture but in the other disciplines that came into the office. So to answer your question about the transitioning it and to follow from what you're saying, it is, as I call it, I am nosy and I am inquisitive. Have always been. I go to look for things that I need to learn about. So you need to do that. There are have been construction sites incidents that I didn't work on, but I found myself there. I intend to do that for the port, by the way. Because especially when it is something new and different, I try to get on the site because there's something there to learn. I spent so much time at the construction of the Argyle Airport that people thought I was a member of staff, and it worked well for me because I was able to get through doors, and through that I was able to produce my book. So the find ways to put yourself in the places that you want to be. When I started, I was kind of confined to the office because you spent a lot of time drawing, and I wanted to be on site because I needed to see how what I was drawing makes sense to on the. So I said to my boss one day, you go to site meetings, I am volunteering to take the minutes. Obviously, if I'm taking the minutes, I'm there. So he eventually agreed that I would become the minute taker because nobody liked to take minutes, but I saw that as a way of being in the middle of everything. So I got to walk around and listen to the discussions between the various disciplines as to how they were putting things together and ask questions. And then you go to the meeting and you hear the discussions, and that's how you learn. So you have to be inquisitive and try to find creative ways to get into the places where you want to be. Don't stay in your discipline because they're all interconnected. They work together. So many things come together to put structures in place. So make it your business to be inquisitive, nosy, ask questions, find ways of getting into those places that people tell you you have no business, but find a way. Yeah. Use the what? No, it's not. It's not. It's
I was just gonna add something real quick to, yeah, no worries. I guess to follow it, I kind of had a similar experience. I'm actually a mechanical engineer by training, but I've only ever worked as a civil, which never really would have expected that. But it's just to echo what everyone is saying, you just got to be curious and be a sponge, and all information is good information. And I think the other thing is, I don't know, I'm trying to articulate this, but like, don't wait until you think that you're completely qualified for an opportunity. If an opportunity, whether it's a position, a job, a project, sounds interesting to you, and you think that you can do it, whether you technically fulfill the specifications or you have the background information, it's better to just go for it, because so much of construction is learned on the job. Your schooling gives you a great foundation, but it's so much training, that so much you learn from the operators, from your fellow professionals, from your other engineers. So just go for it, and for lack of a better way to say it, fake it till you make it. If you want that position and you think you can do it, go for it, and regardless of whether your qualifications meet what they're looking for or not. So.
My name is Kiwana Haksha. This is my last week studying at BCPE. So I wanted to ask for advice because I love infrastructure, I love quantity surveying, and also civil engineering. So I was wondering to take a year off to figure out which one I want to pursue.
We shouldn't sit here and tell you which one. You, as you said, you're going to take the year off. See which one makes you feel, and to do that, you have to research the field, each one on its own, and see which one makes you, come alive. But I would say that we short on quantity surveyors in this country. But it was my worst subject at school because I didn't like it. It's your best subject, good for you. But see which one makes you feel fulfilled, and then you go from there. Somebody should not make that decision for you. Yeah.
Because I guess we're short in quantity surveyors, I find myself doing quantity surveying job. So you might, even though you say you want to become a civil engineer, for example, you might find yourself doing QS job. You might, if you're a QS, you might find yourself saying, you're accustomed to seeing drawings, what is required for a, say like a beam. You want somebody to give you some quantities. You say, I look into, you're not accustomed to seeing that. So you might find yourself in intertwined in the different areas. So it's not to say, well, if you focus on quantity surveying, you won't be able to do something with civil engineering. If you focus on civil engineering, you won't be able to do quantity surveying because they're all interlinked, really. You can do which one you feel is. You can go school for one, then go and study for the other. You have all your life ahead of you.
I want to interject here to ask something, and this is based on what the young lady just asked. How feasible it is. We have a room filled with young women, and I believe that example is its greatest teacher. How can we get some of these young women, for example, you said your name was? Kiwani. Let's say on the port modernization project, incorporating all the safety aspects and everything, so she can get a hands-on experience about what this particular field necessitates and how, how would that propel her into what she wants to become in the future. I see you looking at me, Marlon.
Look at us.
You're looking at Alex.
Remember what I said.
Right.
I want to go to your board project to see what is happening. Approach the people. I am a student of in construction. Can I have a tour? So if you wait for them to come to find you, it will never happen because they're busy doing what they're doing. So you have to make an approach. Speak to your teachers so that you have a tour or something like that. You have, and you never know what will ignite you. Or some things that you've done in class may then say, oh, okay, that's what that is about. You have to make your way. Don't wait for people to come to look for you. They may never come. Yeah.
I'm the social specialist with Aecon, and we are talking about the idea of having a program where people interested in construction could come and shadow. So whether it's secondary school, technical school, or college, could come and spend a day shadowing someone in that profession, if that would be of interest to people. The other thing we've sort of been talking about as a group is, would it be a good idea to start some sort of a group for women in construction? Many other countries have one. Whether we would be chartered by Canada, the UK, the US, another big organization, or just have our own, but a place for especially women starting or changing careers to be able to find a mentor, to talk about the challenges, to find some resources. So we're going to continue to explore those ideas, but in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me at Aecon. I can certainly set you up a site visit if you just kind of want to experience the real thing. So let me know.
I'll take consultancy fees. I think we have a question from this young lady.
Morning, my name is Carrie Richards, and I represent the Barron Technical Institute. I've enrolled there in 2016 to 2017, which I did electrical installation. And most of the challenges, I was in the field, I've been in the field for 10 years experience. Most of the challenges I face is like stereotyping, but for me, I create mental blocks and focus on the job. I see everybody on the job site as workers. So I don't know if there will be for you guys coming up in this construction, when I'm a dominant field, I should say, create mental blocks and see everybody as workers, you know? And there's some self-confidence, I should say.
Questions? Questions? Okay. Go ahead.
I have a question for this. So, in your field, right, you draw, right?
What about if I want to be an architect? Well, I can't draw. but have ideas as to what I want. How do I really go about just in software? The ideas, where do they come from? If I come from like when you're feeling inside like a sense of creativity, right? Okay, so let's say I want to let's say
Okay, let me your ideas, because I get the impression you're talking about design here, right, as opposed to actual drawing. Anybody can transfer their thoughts to paper, even if only you understand it at the time. Yeah, and that's what you do. That's where you start. I came through the ranks of pencil sketching before computers, and I still go back to that as as the default position where you sketch. So that's where you start. Knowledge brings confidence, and with those two things, if you add, or you should add, honesty and integrity, you're on your way. That the shyness goes. Knowledge, confidence, honesty, integrity, and you're good to go.
Any
Yeah,
other
well,
thoughts from the room? Any other thoughts?
I think we're about this stage where we have to pull it together and wrap up. While you think about that, I just want to throw two more or less pointers. Anybody can take them. The issue of stigma and discrimination in this male-dominated field. And four of you ladies at the head table have been mentioned.
Speaking to the girls from this particular institution, and it was not necessarily construction, but generally women next level from secondary onwards. That was kind of how it was pitched. And a male teacher stood up, said, I have a question. And his point was, why are you not at home cooking? I was taken aback by the question and the boldness in the forum. And he was the teacher of these girls, so we were trying to, but I had to put on my professional hat and answer nicely, and then I spoke to him after. So I think we have a responsibility. That's us on this side of the table, and others. There are other young girls who are doing engineering and other areas of construction, and we just have to lift you and bring you further, encourage you to continue in the field, and you encourage other women who you know, and more of this kind of conversation, not only in construction but generally, to take girls to the next level, stay in school and do your work, and we take it from there. We just have to keep talking and encouraging, and you in turn need to be inquisitive and nosy and put yourself, as I said. And I have no problem of walking down the street and you stop me, miss. I'm happy to have a conversation, because you may remember me and I may not remember all the faces. But you may not want to ask you a question here, but you may see one of us on the street or something and you have a question, that's fine as well. Just be inquisitive, I think. Yeah. Say something. Wait.
No, I remember what you spoke about, but I'm not sure. Maybe the main idea changed. Yes. So moving forward, right? what I would say to you is you have to know yourself and you have to set your plan for where you want to be in the future. You know, maybe you want to start a family, you want to start being financially secure, you want to move out from home. You are responsible for yourself at this age, at least. You know, you, yes, you can. You can do them all, but main word, keyword, plan. Set your goals, work towards them. There will be setbacks, not would or might, will. Yes. So you have to dedicate yourself on tough days. I'm not sure everybody might not have that supporting figure, but you have to make sure that how do I put that? Just believe in yourself, one. Yes, I think once you believe in yourself and you ground yourself in who you are and what's not, things might change. Next 10 years, you don't want to be in construction. You might gain some skills that could be transferred in other sectors. In construction, you must be able to communicate one. Because what I have in my head, Shakisha doesn't have in her head, Miss Mayers doesn't have in her head. So the way I communicate ideas is a very important skill. So let's say you move on from construction, you have gains like superb interpersonal skills. You might end up in international relations. Who knows? So just believe in yourself and set your goals. That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey, thank you. I would say I view life as an everyday about learning. You may want to be in one sector today, as you mentioned, you weren't interested in cooking and whatnot, and now you're interested in construction, and that is fine. But it's just a case where I think you should be intentional with what you're doing. So if you know, okay, you want to get this thing done, start, as Mrs. Mayers mentioned, wiggle, make room for yourself. So even before I knew I was getting into construction and what's not, I knew I was interested in environmental health and safety. And then I went on LinkedIn and I just typed in environmental health and safety, and some groups popped up, and I joined several of them, including for construction, because I know even though this sector is different, there are things to be learned. And I did that sometime last year, and here I am now. You understand what I'm saying? So it's about learning, putting yourself in a position to keep learning. And once you get into a field, don't sit down comfortably and say, okay, I'm here and this is it, right? Because things change, things evolve. As Mrs. Mayes mentioned, in the beginning, she was drawing by hand, but now there's technology. So things are evolving quickly. So once you get into a field, don't sit down and figure, okay, I'm here, I made it, and this is that. You have to keep learning and keep developing and keep improving yourself so that you could continue to grow as an individual. And then if you want to move out of that field, move out of construction or whatever else, then do that. But just be intentional what you're doing, plan, and things would fall into place. And once you have education, nobody can really take that from you anyways, right? So learn, and apply as much as you could. And even if you don't have a professional forum to do so, we have social media, we have the internet. There are many ways that you could, walk around not being able to do something locally or physically.
I guess my big thing is if it's what you want to do, and you know what you want to do, I think the biggest thing is stay true to that, because there will be people that tell you that you can't do it, that you shouldn't do it, that it makes no sense. But if it makes you happy and you enjoy it and that's what you want to do, then just stick with it. Because they don't know you and they don't know what you want to do, and they don't know what your life, like what you want for your life. So just kind of going back to the thing, like, just don't let people put you in a box. If just do what you want to do and stick with it.
What I would say is that you have to put in the work. Like, you cannot just sit down and say, I wish I could get this, I want this. Because wishful thinking without any action is really not going to get you anywhere. So my thing is, you just sit down, decide what you want to do and put in the work. And most of the time you are going to achieve it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all to ourselves to applaud our way kind of at the same time commend you and the various institutions which you represent for being here. You were a very good audience and thank you so much for your questions. To do the official thanks, though, we would like to invite the social specialists on the SG Port Modernization Project, Alex King, to say thank you.
All right, I'll start over, make it look natural. The theme of this year's International Women's Day is Embrace Equity. And what I've seen happening here today really, I think, exemplifies embracing equity. So it's meeting people where they are, it's accepting we're a diverse population. Even as women, we all have different interests, different skills, different strengths. And I really want to thank everyone here for the way we are lifting each other up, coming together as a group, the panel from the most experienced to the least experienced, sharing what their journey has been like in this career. And I think that's how we learn. It's how we learn as people, is by supporting each other and connecting. So thank you all for being a part of this. There are lots of people who you don't see here today who made this possible. Aecon sponsored it. The people in our office, our team, Casey, thank you, did lots of follow-up calls and taught me a lot about St. Vincent culture to make this work. The library has been wonderful to work with as well in hosting us. So I would like to thank them. Marlon Stevenson, who is my counterpart over at the Port Authority, is always making it possible for anything that we do to happen. So I want to thank him as well. I want to encourage you all to, after we have some snacks and a little social time, to go downstairs into the reference room where the Women in Construction exhibit is. There's a nice video, there's a selfie zone, just a lot of interesting information. So thank you for providing this opportunity and have a great day. My name is Alexandria King von Kirschner, Alex, and I'm the social specialist at Aecon Construction on the Port Modernization Project. Aecon Construction is a Canadian company. We operate also in the States and in a few places in the Caribbean, and we are the contractors for the Port Modernization Project. This was an opportunity for young women interested in construction to hear from some professional women. So we have 5 women from very different aspects of construction to talk about their education and experience, really to, I guess, provide some inspiration and some support for young women. Downstairs we have a Women in Construction exhibit, which is for all ages, talking about just why construction is a good career for women as well as men. There's a selfie zone, there's a spinner so you can spin and see which career you get and then go find it on the wall and some activity sheets. So basically to raise awareness of that construction's for everyone, both men and women. Basically, we are targeting for this particular thing, first grade girls. So we've invited a lot of schools to come, and we'll do kind of a guided tour of the exhibit and have a chance to talk with them. Because if you start thinking about opportunities when you're young, you're more likely to have a wide variety as you get older and actually choose your career.